that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 448th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and Tom Fennell, the amazing Tom Fennell in the flesh. We don't tell new jokes around here. Okay, and as I have said hundreds of times before, every day I get up and go find the news on the internet about energy and climate change, post it to my blog, geoharvey.com. You can go there, and if you hear us talk about something that you think is interesting, click on the date. We will try to keep you apprised. We're going to start on the 2nd of December, which is a week ago today. Today
My
is
sister's
9th.
birthday.
2nd of December is?
Yeah.
How about that? And
Hi, folks.
that was a new joke. Okay. And you can click on the date at geoharvey.com, or you can look at the file that is on the page down there somewhere, or there's a link to the thing the script that we use for the show.
Well, some of these are well worth following up. There's
Yeah,
one
absolutely.
of them particularly I'm going to talk about in the show it's almost mandatory.
What's that?
It's a long article
About?
energy, but it's comprehensive. It's
okay.
about 12 pages typewritten.
I know. Some of these go on and on.
This is a good article,
Yeah,
well written, and it's very comprehensive.
Yeah.
And I'll mention it as we go.
And I'll point out that I did not write it.
I don't think you wrote it. No, I don't think you wrote it.
Okay. So are we ready? Should we go?
Might as well. Can't dance.
Okay. Here's a picture of the Hoover Dam.
Well, let's
Tom
get
could
that
put
up
that
there.
up if he wants. This particular article comes from Clean Technica.
I've been at that Hoover Dam. It wasn't quite as dry when I was there. There was a little bit of a ring around it. It's a long time ago.
Well,
The Hoover Dam supplies water to Las Vegas
yeah.
and hot power to half of Southern California.
Yeah, I know. And I remember the Hoover Dam from when I was a little kid, because it was a demonstration of the great power of America.
Well, it was.
Yeah.
It's a big generator of electricity and water.
Yeah.
Supplies Las Vegas with both.
Yep.
Supplies most of Southern California with electricity.
This is from Clean Technica. What do you have for title for the
Well,
article?
let's get this up if I can. Come on. Oh, there we go. There we go. So, come on. You're supposed to scroll. Here we go. How California hydropower plants navigate intense drought.
This I thought was really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Although drought conditions in California reduced the water supply, hydroelectric generation during the period from April to September 2021 still increased. This was because hydro ramped up generation in response to higher average daily electricity prices in the late afternoon. So they were using this basically as a load following plant instead of for baseload power.
I think so, yes. The note that I got here is demand, and therefore prices are highest, typically between 6 and 9 p.m. Normally, hydro provides about 5% of total generation, but during these peak hours, that share jumps to 10%.
Aha.
And in this particular case, hydro also includes pump storage.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
We'll move right along here. We got another picture coming up here.
We have a picture here of...
This is a graft.
It's a graft, that's right. This is a graph showing the decline in costs of solar PVs. That is the dots, and then the line that comes down straight is kind of an average line.
Well, you can see it's steadily downward.
Yeah, it's steadily downward. It's pretty steady. And then all those lines that are coming down at a much shallower angle on the right side are
Different
the
sources,
predicted decline.
but for different sources of power.
No, I think those are for I think those are for PVs. And the ones at the top are the earlier ones, and the ones at the bottom
They're all for PE.
Yeah. And
Yeah, it says it, observed PE, average PV course.
yeah. And you can see that, you know, in no case did anybody expect the PVs to decline as fast as they did.
And they're still going down.
And they're still going down, and Wright's law says they will continue to go down.
Until they got to pay you to take them.
I think that's correct, yes. Although I'm doing a little study of my own of Wright's law, and I'm beginning to think that
Wright's law is wrong, huh?
No, well, sort of. I'm beginning to think that if you are in a declining market, Wright's law might reverse, and the prices go up.
Uh-huh. Well, it says here renewable energy is even cheaper than previously thought.
That's right. Researchers at Oxford showed that early models consistently underestimated both how quickly the cost of renewable energy would fall and the benefits of a rapid switch to clean energy. Costs of renewables are falling far faster than expected, even as costs of energy from coal and nuclear rise.
Well, they're falling dramatically, really.
Yeah, they are.
For example, here, solar and energy annual prices were forecast to fall by 2.5%
Yep.
on the average in the decade following 2010. But they fell 15%. That's 6 times.
Yes.
Over the same period, the global price of power from coal fell from 111 to 109.
Yeah, and the price of nuclear went up. And I think the price of nuclear has been going up consistently since nuclear started providing power.
Well, I think the price of nuclear is artificially supported anyhow.
Yeah, it is. But I'm thinking that Wright's law, which people are familiar with, they call it the learning curve. It's Moore's law is an expression of it. I think Wright's law, what you do with Wright's law is you see things being made, and then you observe the change in cost, and doing that you can find a number which you can project a future change in cost. But if the cost that you're observing goes up, then Wright's law would kind of imply that the cost will continue to go up.
But it doesn't work that way.
No, I think it does. I think nuclear is just going to keep going up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, energy price forecasts fail to account for a substantial infrastructure cost improvement. Okay? So while the electricity was going down, the cost of producing that electricity was going down too.
Yes.
Greater deployment led to even lower prices.
Yes.
Okay? And compared to continuing with today's carbon-intensive, fossil fuel-based system, a rapid transmission to emissions-free green energy could produce overall net savings of trillions of dollars.
Trillions of dollars. And you know, it reminds me of Everett Dirksen, who said a billion here, a billion there.
Pretty soon you're to some
Pretty
real
soon
money.
you're talking about real money. Well, here we're in a different era, and it's a trillion here, a trillion there, and pretty soon you're talking about money that's greater than I've got.
Well, we got an interesting picture coming up here.
We do.
You're going to push the button.
I have to push the button. There we go.
There we go. And this will get it up.
This is Prague, which I kind of found for this article as a kind of.
Well, this is a very interesting picture. That's a dam.
That's a dam, which also happens to be a bridge.
It's a dam, it's a bridge, but it's not a vehicular bridge. It's more
Just
of a flea
bridge.
market than anything else.
Oh, really?
I mean, I enlarged it. Those are all people there.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is. It's turned into a kind of a flea market because you can't drive cars on it.
Yeah.
So Europe unveils its $340 billion answer to China's Belt and Road Infrastructure Initiative.
The EU has unveiled a 300 billion euro, which is $340 billion, alternative to China's Belt and Road Initiative. It sounds like you just said that. The EU claims their program will create, quote, links, not dependencies, end quote. The global gateway is aimed at helping the global recovery by mobilizing investments.
Well, what China's been doing is building roads, railways, and ports worldwide in order to forge new trade links and diplomatic ties.
Right.
Okay, and they got 139 countries signed up for it.
That's a lot of countries.
That's a lot of countries.
Yeah.
So China's program, however, has been accused of saddling countries with huge debts.
Yeah, and they have such a simple way of dealing with people who don't pay their debts.
They just cut them off?
No, they did this in Sri Lanka. They had a clause that said, and by the way, if you don't pay this, and
they take it over, don't they?
They take over a piece of property, which happens to be in a port, so they can build a military base in a port.
Oh, how neat!
Isn't it?
My God, how the money flows in.
They've got a base in the Indian Ocean now, and as a matter of fact, they have
they do, don't they?
Bases in South America.
Yeah,
I think they've got a base in Chile.
That's scary.
Well, you said it. I'm not disagreeing with you. Anyway,
well, let's look at Friday, December 3rd, and we got an interesting picture coming up here.
That looks like it would be a fun place to be in a storm, doesn't it?
It almost looks like a storm right there.
It sure does.
And in there.
Yeah.
Well, that's an oil rig. It's in the North Sea, and it's a little rough out that day.
Yeah, this is CNN brought us this.
Shell scraps plans to develop Cambo North Sea oil fields.
This is a big deal.
It is.
Royal Dutch Shell announced that it scrapped plans to develop the Cambo oil field in the British North Sea. The oil field had become a lightning rod for climate activists seeking to halt development of new oil and gas resources. But Shell cited economic reasons to stop development. So they're saying it isn't because people are upset, it isn't because of climate change, it's because this oil is just not going to be worth taking out of the ground.
Basically, that's it. They had been waiting on government permission to begin developing it. But they say it's still committed to oil and gas operations in the North Sea, but this Cambo isn't going to make it economically.
Yeah.
Campbell's opponents argued that any expansion in oil production undermines the country's goal to go carbon neutral.
Yes, I agree with that.
Well, there's a quick takeaway here. There is no need for a new oil field during a climate crisis.
Yeah, I think that may be true, unless you want to destroy the Earth. Maybe that's what they want to do. I don't know.
Well, we got an interesting solar array coming up here.
Yeah, this is from the American Public Power Association, which posts...
Where is that, do you know?
I have no idea. They post pictures of what their renewable energy...
But they don't tell you where.
...on Unsplash, and they're free pictures to download. So if you go to Unsplash and look at what the American Public Power Association has put up, you'll find a lot of stuff, but...
That could be anywhere.
That could be almost anywhere, yeah.
It's pretty likely it's in the U.S., but it could be anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, the article says it's the magic math of solar plus storage, which in a nutshell says the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, and it takes a little thinking about this to figure it out. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts seems to be a perfect description for the magic math of solar plus storage. The effective load carrying capability of solar with storage is actually higher than the effective load carrying capability of solar plus the effective load carrying capability of storage. It's not magic, it's just the way the numbers add up. And it has to do with the fact that these things get moved through time. The solar is happening during the day, the storage is happening in the evening.
Well, they're complementary sources.
Yeah.
They help each other.
They help each other, yeah. So the point is, of course, that you know what this reminds me of, Tom? I had a friend who was he lived in New Jersey, and after, I think it was Hurricane Sandy, he said, I've had it with these power outages that last for days. I'm going to get a diesel generator.
Okay.
So he told me that he had ordered a diesel generator. It had arrived. It was being installed the next day. And I said, oh, how big was it? And he said, gave me a figure that was something like 7 kilowatts.
Doesn't sound like much.
Well, 10 kilowatts, whatever it was. This was a big diesel generator.
Okay.
And I said, how did you arrive at that figure? And he said he went through the house and he wrote down the load that was needed for every appliance he had, and he added them up. And I said, wait a minute.
They're not all on at once.
So you added the load that was required for the air conditioners to the load that was required for the furnace.
For the heat.
He said, yes. And I said, I think you probably are purchasing a unit
Much
that's
bigger.
probably twice the size of what you need, or more. And, you know, he lived in that house for a couple of years after that, and I don't think that he ever turned the thing on except to test it. But, you know, this is kind of the same thing. It's like it's bigger, and if you're going to add up what your needs are, you can't just add everything. I'm sorry, I'm going down. Anyway.
Take a quick look again at this.
Okay.
That's a nice array. I wonder what
It is, yeah. I don't know. It's in the United States. It's from the American Public Power Association.
You know,
so it is in
likely
the
it's
United
US,
States, yeah. Okay.
Well, we got another picture coming up here.
Yeah, yeah. And
Looks like fun.
Honestly, I have no idea what kinds of pipelines these are. They may have nothing to do with natural gas or oil or anything like that. But this is from The Guardian. And
Well, they're probably made out of that composite that the article talks about.
yeah.
And let's get this thing. Let's see. Let's get you on here.
Get me on.
And, well, us both. Or
Oh,
whatever.
okay.
I'm trying to figure out what's. Oh, here we go. That's called pipeline work.
Sure
That's
is.
amazing. Fossil fuel plant outages pose a main threat to a summer power supply as renewables bolster the grid.
Now, I want to point out this is in Australia. The addition
This
of,
is Australia.
yeah,
Yep.
the addition of almost 5 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity will improve the resilience of Australia's main electricity grid this summer. 5 gigawatts since last year in a country that has a population that's, I think, about a tenth or less of the population of the United States. That's huge.
They're adding a lot of renewable energy.
Yeah.
A lot of it's being done privately in Australia.
With outages from fossil fuel plants, the main threat to supplies, the Australian Energy Market Operator says. So the Australian Energy Market Operator says the weak link in this chain is fossil fuels. The thing that's most likely to lead to outages is fossil fuels.
Fossil fuels, right. Interesting.
Well, we're going into a new paradigm.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't need baseload power anymore.
Absolutely.
You know, and the reason is because we've got cheaper power, and baseload power is baseload power because it's cheap.
Well, according to this article, continued rapid development of new, large-scale and distributed renewable resources has helped improve the reliability outlook. Okay? And in Australia here, households have added 2.6 gigawatts of new solar panel capacity, while wind and solar farms have added another 2.2 gigawatts. Mm-hmm. So a lot of this is being done privately.
A lot of it is being done. A lot of
Without
it's being done
subsidies.
by
Individuals.
individuals.
Yeah, absolutely.
On their homes.
That's what I mean by privately.
Yeah. Okay, should
So
we
to
go on?
Move up to Saturday, December 4th here. We got another picture coming up.
We do.
What in the world is that thing?
That is a carbon engineering pilot plant.
Well, we'll
Couldn't you
find
tell
out who
just by
carbon
looking at it?
engineering is in a second here.
This is from EchoWatch.
New Canadian facility to produce renewable fuel from air.
Oh, you know, this sounds like a con, doesn't it? It really does. Okay, in British Columbia, Canadian clean energy company Huron Clean Energy and its partner Carbon Engineering Ltd. has plans to create a revolutionary fuel for cars, airplanes, and ships They are engineering a commercial facility that they say will produce usable fuel out of air.
Well, it's not just out of air, but they're pulling
Air
the
and
CO2 out of the air.
Air and water.
I guess it's water.
Yeah.
They're making synthetic gasoline is what they're doing.
How brilliant.
Yeah. Well, the facility will use hydroelectricity to electrolyze water, okay, giving you hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen is then combined, this is an interesting thing, with carbon dioxide,
Yes.
sequestered from the air. Now, this is interesting, using carbon engineering signature technology. So they got an inside deal here.
Yeah.
To produce hydrocarbons can be used in a place of traditional petroleum-based fuels. This is an interesting concept.
Well, it is interesting, but I'll tell you, Tom, I don't expect it to succeed. And the reason is because it's going to be more expensive almost always to make this stuff synthesizing than just pumping it out of the ground.
Well, the new renewable fuel will work in existing airplanes, ships, trucks, and cars without the need to modify the vehicles.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't cost too much, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
But as you just suggested, it's likely to cost too much.
It's likely to cost a lot of money. You never can tell, though. These guys might have some kind of technology that's going to drive the cost down like mad. It will be subject to the learning curve, just like all other new ideas, so we'll see what happens.
Well, it all depends on what it costs them to electrolyze the water.
I think, well, drawing down carbon out of air is not cheap.
Well, yeah, that's their big thing.
Okay.
That's their technology.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to take us
Interesting picture
along
here. This
to
nice picture here.
an item from Green Tech Lead,
That's a pretty picture, isn't it?
isn't it? Those I don't know where those came from. Somehow I have a feeling that that's Western Canada, but I'm not sure.
It doesn't say.
Yeah.
Well, the IEA, which is the International Energy Administration,
Agency, I think. But
Agency,
you might be right. It
Agency
might be
Administration. IEA forecast on renewable electricity capacity. That's what the article is about.
Renewables are set to account for almost 95% of the increase in global power capacity through 2026. So in the next 5 years, 95% of new generating capacity will be renewable, according to this. Global renewable and electricity capacity is forecast to rise 60% from 2020 levels to over 4,800 gigawatts by then, equivalent to the current global power capacity of fossil fuels.
4,800 gigawatts. I
Yeah.
can't even conceive of that.
This is equivalent to the current global power capacity of fossil fuels and nuclear power
It would
combined.
have to be. It would have to be.
This is a huge amount, and this is what they're just kind of foreseeing. This is the IEA, International
Energy Administration.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things they're saying is elevated fossil fuel prices make renewables more competitive, which we've talked about here.
Yeah.
Well, China and India are set out to come on top in terms of rate of growth, doubling new installations compared with 2015 to 2020.
Yes.
They're growing fast. Deployments in Europe and the U.S. are also on track to speed up significantly.
Yes.
Okay, these four markets together account for 80% of renewable capacity expansion worldwide.
Yeah.
It's happening, guys.
And it is happening. And I don't remember whether it was in this article or another one. I don't remember whether it was an article that we were putting up or not. But they were saying that there were two articles, one of which said we need to double the speed at which we are. We need to double the speed at which we're adding renewable energy.
Yep.
And
I think we talk about that in a little.
yeah, and the other one said one of them said we need to double it, and the other one said we will double it.
Okay.
You know, we have some hopeful stuff here.
Got a picture here of a Tesla Model S.
We do indeed, and this was an interesting.
Let's get the picture.
I
of
don't
the Tesla.
usually
There we go.
post videos at my website, but in this case,
Come on, you.
I broke that rule.
Which one?
There I see it.
There we go.
Tom's got a problem of having two mice, and they put up their cursors on different computers, but the one that controls what's on the screen is on a monitor that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It has 11 pictures on it, and it's so easy. And not only that, but the cursor can wander off the screen altogether and onto a different screen.
It's like learning to walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. Walking and chewing gum is much harder than people don't appreciate that unless they actually try it. Okay, what do you got?
Well, this is about a drag race.
A drag race.
Tesla Model S Plaid crushes fossil fuel-powered competitors.
Oh.
There's a 23-minute video there, and it does. It just crushes.
And they're up against two cars that both...
And they're hot cars.
They're hot cars. They have more than 600 horsepower, and this Tesla just leaves them in the dust.
Well, it's a 23-minute video. If you've got 23 minutes, it just shows this whole drag race.
Yeah, it shows the whole drag race, and it shows it from different angles and from inside one car or another, maybe all three. And that Tesla is more than a second ahead of the other two.
Oh, quite a bit.
It's
yeah.
it's like...
It just zooms.
It
These guys are
goes.
just sitting there, you know.
It goes. Okay. So
You can watch a video here.
Yeah.
23 minutes, and it's if you got 23 minutes, it's kind of fun.
It is, if you like drag races. I hate drag races, so,
Well, we got some pictures here.
We are up to December 5th.
Nice picture here of some
ocean life. It's hard to believe that it's really those colors. Wow. That, by the way, is a picture of coral that is not in bad shape.
Yes, because it bleaches when it's in bad shape.
Yeah.
And if it's lucky, it'll snap
And
back.
the fish are still around, and Okay, this is from evwind.es.
Renewable wind energy can help save the planet and the ocean's marine life.
The ocean's winds are about to play two historic roles. One is helping to save us from fossil fuels, and the other is making habitats safe for marine life. As offshore wind turbines generate electricity, they also bring fish and shellfish and even crustaceans back to the seas.
Well, this is an article that's long, quite long, but it's very well written and it's very informative.
Yeah.
So if you've got some time to read, it's going to take you about 20 minutes to read it.
Yeah.
It's worth reading because it's, like I say, very informative and it's well written.
Yep.
Well, winds rarely break into the news except when they disrupt daily life. For thousands of years, ocean winds drove human history. Think about sailing ships. Can we even imagine a world history without them? But fossil fuels make us forget the power of ocean winds.
Oh, boy.
Okay? Who cared as long as fossil fuels were just annihilating fish?
I don't know. I worry about this stuff. We need to be able to
lots
eat.
of us awoke to the fact that fossil fuels are threatening us. We were forced to remember ocean winds. And we discover that our gigantic ocean offshore wind turbines are also bringing fish and shellfish back to the seas.
Yes.
This is a good article.
I saw an article, I think it was at the BBC today, about a Scottish whiskey company that was working with some nonprofit organization, and the water that they were on, which was the Firth of something or other, which was basically just kind of tidal water.
The Firth of Forth.
Well, it wasn't the Firth of Forth. I would remember
Firth
that.
of Fifth.
It was the Firth of Fifth. That's right. How could I be so dumb? And they were planting oysters.
Okay.
And they said they wanted to get 2 million oysters in, but they were planting like 20,000. And after
They got a long way to go.
They have a long way to go, but of course the oysters are going to breed. So the oysters are going to help. And they
They
said
do that, don't they?
all these things that had been missing, fish and eels and crabs and you name it, all moved in because the oysters were there. And,
Okay.
you know, there you go. So, our next item,
Well, we got another picture here.
wind turbines.
Let's get this
Jason
picture up.
Blackeye, I don't know anything about him except that I know that he's got a lot of pictures of wind turbines at Unsplash.
Aha.
So, anyway, this is from Power Engineering International.
Renewable energy and sustainability. They're stakeholders and consumer trends.
Reports released by Norwegian clean energy firm Eco HZ, I'm going to call it. It's ECOHZ.
Cough.
There you go. I just did too, didn't it?
Good pronunciation.
Clear your throat. And U.S. utility NRG, Energy, highlight the value of clean capacity. According to the report by Eco HZ, sustainable strategies are pushing large companies to embrace renewable energy. So,
Well, Eco HZ found that sustainability progress reporting mechanisms are increasingly becoming relevant
yeah.
and important in the energy transition.
Yep.
This is an interesting point. Renewable energy is becoming the norm,
Yes.
okay? An increasing number of power users are expected to deploy energy storage. Operative word there is increasing.
You know, we just heard that it was over the next 5 years, it was going to be 95% renewable. And
Yeah.
that stuff is going in because people are going to pay for it.
Well, it's the economics, stupid.
Exactly. Most of those wind farms and so forth, they don't even start construction until they've got a contract signed for the output that they're going to have.
Which they seem to be easy to get.
Exactly. Okay.
Let's move along here.
This is an interesting picture. It's the first time I've ever seen a picture of this particular phenomenon. And
Well, it's a cloud formation, and I've seen those clouds. I never realized they were formed by the jet stream, but you can see that as
yeah.
it looks like they're being blown somewhere.
Yeah, well, I think they are. And of course, if you saw this in real life, you'd see that the clouds in the middle of that blue area are moving. This is from AP News.
Stuck jet stream and La Niña causing weird weather.
Yeah, America's winter wonderland is starting out this season is anything but traditional. Umbrellas, not arcs, are needed, if not arcs, are needed in the Pacific Northwest, while the Rockies, in the Rockies, snow shovels are gathering cobwebs. I mean, it's not snowing in Denver. Meanwhile,
But it's been warm here.
yeah, meanwhile, there is a blizzard warning on Hawaii's Big Island summits.
Well, the calendar says December,
Yeah.
but temperatures beckon for sandals.
I told you. You remember early in November I said that I had picked a fig from a tree
Yeah.
in the yard?
Yeah.
Well, 2 weeks after that, I mentioned
Picked another one.
I mentioned that to my landlady, and she said, "Oh, they're still ripening."
Yeah.
And she pulled one off and gave it to me, and it was good.
Interesting.
Now, there was one difference between those, and that was that somewhere between the two dates, she had started covering the trees at night. These are little trees. They're only about 4 feet tall,
So
5
she was
feet tall.
protecting them.
So she was protecting them a little bit. But nevertheless, we never had figs before the beginning of October. We never had figs after the beginning of October. We never had figs on a date in October, and here we were getting them in November.
Well, the article says it's caused by a stuck jet stream and the effects of a La Nina weather pattern. Now, last week we discussed the difference between La Nina and El Nino.
Yes.
And in one case, the winds are going up in the South Pacific. In another case, the winds are going down.
Yeah.
And I don't remember which one is
Well,
which.
you know, there's
The
a point.
flip side of El Nino is La Nina.
Yeah.
And it's cooling parts of the central Pacific Ocean that changes weather patterns across the world.
And the fishermen in South America don't like either one of them, as I understand it.
Well,
Okay.
La Ninas tend to bring more rain to the Pacific Northwest and make the U.S. South drier and warmer.
Yeah, that's
So
all
even
they
though
need.
these things are happening in the South Pacific, they affect weather here in the U.S.
Yeah, and all around the world.
and
actually.
around the world.
But the American Southwest does not need warmer and drier weather. Thank you very much. Okay, picture. What in the world is that?
A giant slug.
A giant metallic slug.
Well, those are all PVs.
On the top, the things facing up are PVs. Yeah.
You have to
and
it's
what
a
that is-
stadium, and they got PVs
It's
on
a
top
stadium,
of it.
and the entrance to the stadium. And anyway, this particular item is from Green Biz.
Explaining the exponential growth of renewable energy.
Understanding the exponential growth of renewable energy gives us reason to be more optimistic. This is the one where they're saying we're gonna be increasing this more and more. More optimistic about the fast growth it can ramp up to meet the climate goals. This article explains the reason behind solar and wind's growth, how much progress has already been made, and what's needed to go even farther.
Well, in 2010, solar and wind combined made up 1.7% of global electricity.
Doesn't sound like much.
By last year, it had climbed to 8.7%.
Right.
This is global now.
Yeah.
Far higher than predicted.
Far higher. That's
Far
right.
higher. That's
Yeah.
the operative word.
Yeah.
Falling costs have been the biggest factor. Duh.
Duh.
Since 2010, the cost of PV has fallen 85%.
85%.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the cost of wind have gone down by about half.
Right.
So they're both going down, but PV, well, as we see on the show, how low can you go?
Well, what's going to happen is
They're going to pay people to take it.
Well, they've already got to that point. They really have. Not with with solar, but with wind. I mentioned this before. Onco, which is the Encore, which is the utility for Dallas, I think, but it's a big utility in Texas, produced a thing that was kind of like our cow power, except that it was wind power. You could sign on for wind power, pay a little bit extra for your electricity, and then between 9 o'clock at night and 6 o'clock in the morning, you could take as much electricity as you wanted
free.
for any purpose you wanted, and it would be free.
Yeah.
So if you put up Tesla power batteries,
Batteries to store that.
you could store the electricity in them during the night when it was free, and then live off them during the daytime.
I would imagine a few Texans have figured that one out.
I think Texans are not all stupid. You know, actually, I'm not sure any of them are stupid.
Well, it's part of their culture to play stupid.
That might be, but you know, they do figure things out down there, and that is something that I'm sure people signed on to.
Well, policy support has been essential for the growth of renewable energy. Renewable energy tax credits and subsidies, feed-in tariffs, and competitive auctions have all helped reduce costs and spur development.
Right.
We got an
Okay.
interesting picture here.
This is a weird picture.
It is weird.
There you go. There it is.
I can't figure out what that is.
Well, the green things are lithium
ions.
ions, and the black things are the graphite anodes. And what happens is the lithium ions kind of insinuate themselves into the layers in the graphite anodes, and these layers are really interesting because graphite is layer and layer and layer of graphene, which people didn't even know about until very recently. Graphene has been made, it's separated, it's like a sheet of
Very thin.
film that is one atom thick.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's only an atom thick.
Yeah, and it's
And
also
it piles up on each other.
extremely strong. But you know, if you pile them up on one another and glue them together somehow, you get graphite, which is a natural thing, unlike graphene. But the lithium ions insinuate themselves into the graphite. So this is
you're
from
going to
Clean
explain
Technica.
to us. I'll read this thing.
Yep.
Scientists discover another reason why EV batteries can't charge in a few minutes.
At Argonne,
This is significant.
Yep, at Argonne National Laboratory, scientists discover that when lithium-ion batteries are charged too quickly, the lithium ions cover on the surface of the graphite node, plating it instead of inserting themselves into the anode's graphite. This reduces battery life. So you don't want
This
to.
is a problem they got to fix.
Well, they're going to have to fix it.
They'll fix it.
Yeah.
I mean, this has got to be a high priority item.
Yeah, and one of the things that they can do is use something other than lithium, because they've got so many different ways that they can do this. I never expected these guys would be doing work on flow batteries for cars. But, you know, we were talking about that.
I never thought of
You know,
that.
who'd have
Well,
thunk?
like I've said here when I studied engineering, we spent 47 minutes talking about batteries.
I thought it was 47 seconds.
The bottom line is we didn't talk about batteries.
Because everything that was known about, that was going to be known about batteries was
It
already
was already
known.
known. There was
Yeah.
two kinds of batteries, the kind in your car, the kind in your flashlight.
There you go. All right. So should we go on?
I think we should, yeah. Let's
Okay, this is Hell's Kitchen Geothermal Plant, which is
Well, let's
a
get a
very
picture of that
unattractive
one.
sounding place that I don't want to be. How about that? And this is
Well-
an article from Clean Technica.
Well, that's Hell's Kitchen. And for those who are not in the know, Hell's Kitchen is a part of New York. And in the 1850s or thereabouts, it was a slum.
It was
It's the midwestern part of Manhattan. It's about the 50s.
okay.
And it was in a slum. It was an Irish slum, basically.
Okay.
And it was a horrible place to live. Now it's an upscale neighborhood.
Well, that happens. You know, the neighborhood that I was in Brooklyn, where Pratt Institute is all been gentrified.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Empty,
definitely.
empty warehouses that were just horrible-looking buildings on streets that nobody went down because there was no reason to go down them.
Yeah.
Now you got BMWs
Yeah.
being parked in those
They
streets.
turned them all into
And they're
expensive
still
condos.
ugly. But, you know, they're still ugly, but yuppies pay $250,000
Oh,
for a
absolutely.
loft that they can move into. Yeah,
Well,
it's
that
crazy.
plant doesn't exist yet,
Oh,
but they just broke ground on it.
okay.
But there are other geothermal plants on the Salton Sea.
Yes.
There's about a half a dozen of
And
them.
I noticed that they've got trees planted all around that thing.
Yes, they do. Well, that's an artist concept.
Maybe the artist was.
Lithium brine bummer could turn into a bonanza soon.
Yeah. Geothermal power plants at the Salton Sea in California produce brine that is so extraordinarily high in lithium that the United States could become a leading producer of lithium for EV batteries. There are technical issues in the way, but it appears that those issues can be overcome.
They'll work on it because there's money to be made. There's
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of lithium there.
There's a lot of lithium. And
On the surface
the
and underground, it's
federal
all over the
government
place.
should be subsidizing this so we don't have to depend upon lithium coming from other countries. That's a security problem.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
I like this picture. Should I go on?
Well, this is just saying, drilling commenced last month on the Hell's Kitchen lithium and power project, which is going to be built as the world's fully integrated geothermal lithium facility. So it's going to generate electricity, but they're also going to generate lithium.
Right.
And lithium is a primary component of the new batteries.
Yes.
So right now, we need lithium.
Lithium is extremely light. I
Yes,
mean,
it is.
Most people have got no concept of how light this metal is.
Well, on the atomic scale, it's number 3, isn't
It's
it?
number 3, which
Yes.
means that it's
Hydrogen,
helium,
helium, lithium.
lithium. You know.
Well, hydrogen and helium are pretty light.
Yeah, lithium, however, is a metal, not a gas, so it's not going to float on air, but it does float on water
It does, yeah.
pretty high, and of course it's reactive enough that it'll catch fire and burn because it's on the water. There's really nothing you can do with this stuff when it's loose except to keep it.
Well, how did that happen?
How did that happen?
I was just
In
searching for
case
that to
anybody
bring it
is
up.
wondering here, Tom controls whether we are on the screen or I am on the screen or he is on the screen or a picture is on the screen. I am the one who controls which picture is on the screen. So if a picture's
Well,
on
this is an interesting picture if you look at what's really going on. This is a, well, I'm trying to think of the word. This is a wind tower.
Yeah, it's the mast of a wind turbine.
But they're not bringing the hydrogen, or they're not bringing the electricity down and pumping it elsewhere. They're bringing it right there and making hydrogen,
They're making
which
hydrogen.
they pump elsewhere.
Yeah, instead of having a
So that's
power
all of
line,
those H2s
yeah,
there in the picture.
instead of having a power line under the water,
They got pipes.
they got pipes under the water. And unlike natural gas or oil, if one of those pipes ruptures, it's just going to release hydrogen, which is very reactive and will react with air within a few days, and that just means that it becomes water, and that's that.
Well, Siemens Gamesa partners on offshore wind to hydrogen. That's what you're seeing. They're turning wind right into hydrogen.
This is from Renews. Siemens Gamesa signed a memorandum of understanding with Strom to collaboratively develop offshore wind to hydrogen infrastructure. They will focus on a decentralized concept, each turbine generating green hydrogen and sending it to the shore through a submarine
What's
pipe.
interesting here, Siemens Gamesa makes the wind turbines.
Yes,
Okay, and Strom makes the pipe.
there you go.
There you
Now
go.
all you need is,
Well, it's a decentralized green hydrogen concept whereby green hydrogen is generated in each turbine generator and transported to shore by underwater pipes.
yep,
So this is a new concept, really.
yeah.
In this concept, power cables are replaced by a thermoplastic composite pipe.
Yes.
Okay, and that's what you were looking at there. Well, we're not looking at it anymore. TCP, well, these thermoplastic composite pipes don't suffer from issues associated with using steel. Hydrogen doesn't react well with steel. Or with
Hydrogen
iron.
goes right through steel, weakening it as it does.
As it does. So.
It's
and it
crazy
embrittles
stuff.
them.
Embrittles them, absolutely. Okay,
So it's an interesting concept.
we should go on.
I think we should. We got another picture here.
Yes, we do.
And
There
there
is
we
a
go,
solar
boy,
charging
Joe.
station
That's
from-
what it looks like,
from
isn't it?
Electrify America, and the article is from Clean Technica.
Electrify America adds 30 megawatt hours of battery storage to 140 EV charging sites. 30 megawatt hours doesn't sound like a lot.
No, it doesn't. But you got to remember, these are being added. These are batteries being added to the charging sites. So,
Yeah, the charging sites are there. They look like that.
yeah,
But what's new about it is they're putting battery
batteries
storage
on
in
it. Electrify America has been installing behind-the-meter storage batteries from Tesla to 140 of its fast charging facilities, 90 of which are in California. To date, the total installed battery capacity is 30 megawatt hours, which, as Tom said, is not all that much, but it is growing. It is the largest such system in North America.
So
Now,
the facilities are there.
You
And
know-
they're just putting batteries in there to reap the harvest during the day and use it 24/7.
I think what they're planning on doing is, if there isn't demand at these charging sites for the electricity they're storing,
They'll store it.
they can also use those batteries, because they're behind the meter, for arbitrage, buying and selling electricity.
Well, behind the meters refers to anything that happens on site.
Yeah.
On the energy user's side of the
Yeah,
meter.
yeah.
So they own it, they can do whatever they want with it.
Which includes selling that electricity to
somebody
the
else.
grid if,
Yeah.
if grid power becomes expensive.
Well, this is interesting because Electrify America, that wrote this article, is funded by the penalties assessed against Volkswagen because of its diesel cheating scandal.
Yes.
Remember that? We talked about
Sure
that.
do.
They
Absolutely.
are installing large solar canopies that not only shield drivers from the sun, but also provide electricity for charging the vehicles parked below. It's a win-win situation.
Yes, it is. Okay,
Let's move along here. We got an interesting picture of some clouds.
the clouds. Those are wind turbines in the sea.
Yeah, if you look close, there's a bunch of wind turbines.
There's a
in that
bunch of wind
picture.
turbines, and this was taken from an airplane which was at an altitude that wasn't trivial, because those wind turbines are each
They
of
look
them
small.
gigantic, and they look small.
Well, Con Edison plans a 2.4 gigawatt offshore link to New Jersey.
And what's a gigawatt, Tom? Explain.
Big
this.
one. Well, let me explain about Con Edison. Con Edison is the utility that serves New York City.
Yes.
Small geographically, but a very large utility.
Oh yeah, it's got a lot of customers.
This is a subsidiary of Con Edison called
Yes.
Con Edison Transmission.
Right.
And they are operating locally right here. They're down in Massachusetts.
Oh, right.
They're
really?
selling electricity to Greenfield.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Interesting. And Greenfield is getting its electricity from renewable energy.
Well, that's the renewable energy they're getting from Con Edison.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this is from Renews. Con Edison Transmission is proposing a grid network link to deliver electricity from offshore wind farms to New Jersey. The plan for the Clean Link New Jersey project would look to connect 2.5 gigawatts, I'm sorry, I should have said bigawatts, of future offshore wind capacity to the grid's high voltage onshore network. Now, just so people know what a gigawatt is,
It's a lot of watts.
it's a lot of watts, it's a billion watts, but the old Vermont Yankee nuclear power plant, when it first came up online, was about 0.52 gigawatts.
A half a gigawatt.
And it was, later on, they operated it, and it came to a little over 0.6.
two-thirds.
Yeah, 0.6 gigawatts. And so 2.4 gigawatts for an offshore wind farm is not 4 times as big or 5 times as big as Vermont Yankee, because Vermont Yankee had a capacity factor of about 90%, and these things will have a capacity factor of about 50%. So this is still more than twice as big as Vermont Yankee. So there. Now I hope I've confused everybody
Well,
enough.
this is interesting because they're going to install multiple high voltage DC subsea transmission cables through a defined power corridor.
Yeah.
Okay, to minimize the environmental impact.
Yes.
And both New York and New Jersey are seeking to add 16 gigawatts of offshore wind capacity by 2035. Both of them
Right.
separately.
And by the way, I have read reports about submarine cables
Yeah,
and the effects on the wildlife. And there are effects on wildlife,
I would expect.
but they're not
They're not very serious.
not severe.
Yeah.
Certain kinds of crabs, for example, like to kind of stick around those things. And so maybe they don't get as much food as they should.
Well, what this article basically is saying is it's about time they're going to start developing the east coast of the United States for wind, which just amazes me of why we haven't done it already.
Oh, it
It's,
doesn't
it's a
amaze me.
perfect. We could power the entire United States with wind power generated off the east coast.
Offshore we could do.
That's
yeah,
what I'm talking about, yeah.
Exactly. But the problem is that there are people in this world who want nothing to do with renewable electricity, and they want to make sure that nobody else has anything to do with it either. And there are
Well, we
reasons.
call them investors, don't we?
Well, not all of them. Some of them are people who just hate wind power
Yeah,
for whatever reason.
for whatever reason.
And, whatever reason they want to come up with, I can tell why that reason is not valid. But nevertheless, they push it. They, get people to follow them.
Well, I think this is driven by investors.
I think it is, yeah. Okay, we should go on. We've got 3 more items.
This is the last item, the last day, and it's
We're on the
Wednesday,
last day,
December 8th.
Wednesday, and this is
And
a
here we got a picture.
refuse truck.
Well, I would call it a garbage truck. But
Well, yeah, I think it's a garbage truck. They're trying to be polite. This is kind of like, what is it? In some movie, I think it's Stagecoach, the guy says something about a woman's limbs, and she says, what? And he says, legs. This is a refuse truck. Okay, from Clean Technica.
Jersey City
Jersey City.
receives its first 5 BYD battery electric refuse trucks.
There you go. Jersey City is taking delivery on the first 5 battery electric refuse trucks. It's easier to say garbage truck. BYD said they're the
It's
first,
sanitized for the public.
first battery electric garbage trucks deployed in New Jersey. And this is the first largest deployment of garbage trucks, battery electric garbage trucks in the United States. Delivery is expected to be completed by the end of this year. Now, I want to point out, we've only got about 3 weeks for this delivery to take place. What are you looking for, Tom?
I'm trying to find.
You're trying to find your cursor.
My cursor here.
You had the wrong mouse there for the cursor. There it is.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go. There we are.
Oh, Jove, there we are.
We should go on, Tom, unless you've got something to say.
Well, they're talking about delivery. It's going to be less than 3 weeks from now.
I think I just said that.
Oh. Well, the start and stop operation of diesel refuse trucks makes them one of the most polluting trucks operating in New Jersey.
Just think about these things. They're always idling except when they're driving very, very slowly. They rarely get out of first gear except to park. And
well, that's the reason why they are the ideal candidate for fleet electrification.
Absolutely. Okay. Our next item has a coal-burning power plant and the ash ponds. This is from CNN.
Let me get that picture up there.
There you go. The ash ponds are the dark things in the upper left that look like they could be fish ponds or something, but they're things that get filled.
I
with
thought
ash.
they were the lower right corner, the white.
Well, maybe they are. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think the ash ponds are dry.
I don't know, Tom. Tom, please, ladies and gentlemen, please ignore me.
I was looking at it, and I think the ash ponds are down there on
You
the
might be
lower
right. All right, let's go because
There's something in the back, the blue, one of those blue areas, and maybe all of them, is solar panels.
You think so?
I think that first one is solar panels.
Oh, well, maybe you're right. Okay, so there's hope
Well,
for the
investigating coal ash sites near you.
Coal ash is one of the
There are
most,
some of them. They're
Yes,
everywhere.
they're
just
all
like
over.
Chicken Man.
just like chicken meat.
He's everywhere. He's everywhere.
Coal ash is one of the most important types of industrial waste in the United States. Hundreds of coal ash ponds filled with various solids from burning coal dot the country, as shown by data, federal regulations. As shown by data, federal regulations require pond operators to publish. Sorry about that. The data was compiled by Earth Justice, an environmental nonprofit. So,
Well, there's a map in this website, and there they are everywhere.
Earth Justice went through the whole thing. They found the places, they aggregated them together, compiled them, and made them into a map.
Well, for what it's worth, coal ash is an umbrella term for the residue that's left when coal is burned.
Okay.
Okay, it contains metals that never biodegrade. Okay,
Yes.
so it's not good stuff. These contaminants are dangerous to humans and have been linked to cancer, lung disease,
All kinds of
birth
problems.
defects.
Destroying
it's
entire
one of the worst
ecosystems.
types of industrial waste in the United
Yep.
States.
And here is our last item. This is Aquan 1.
Oh, this is neat. This is
and
neat.
it is from Rob
let's get
Report.
that
I don't think
picture
we've
up
ever
there.
used anything from Rob Report before. That is ROBB. That is a high cost
Why don't you and me
catamaran.
chip in and buy one of these things?
Well,
It's only $1.5 million or
we
something
could
like that.
we could give each other half interest in it for Christmas, but that's only in a couple of weeks.
That is a neat yacht.
Oh, and just to give you an idea, if you look in the lower left-hand corner on that yacht, that's the bow, and
Yes.
and above the bow you'll notice is a deck that has these two curved structures, one on the starboard, one on the port, and those curved structures are couches. And
Okay.
look closely, and you can see that there's a circular table next to each one of them. I don't know, but I would guess that they could probably seat 8 people each. And
I think the article goes into that.
this is not a trivial.
Oh, no.
And
this-
there are a lot of pictures, almost all of them of the interior, and it looks like an expensive hotel room.
My note to myself is that there's lots of pics on this site.
Yeah, there is.
This new 64-foot hydrogen-powered catamaran uses renewable energy to supply unlimited range.
Fraser Yachts has just unveiled a new catamaran powered by hydrogen. Aquan One combines innovative green technologies for sustainable cruising without noise, without emissions, but with modern comforts. So you don't have to have wind power, but by golly, you can have the best of wind power because there's no noise and
This is quite a nice little
yeah,
yacht.
it is set for delivery in 2023. I'm sorry, Tom. We can't have it this year. Okay.
The Pocket Super Yacht will be fitted with 700 square feet of solar panels on the flybridge roof, and you can see them there, right up on top.
Yes.
Okay, this will allow the cat to harness its own renewable energy, which then will be used to create hydrogen via fuel cells to power the electric motors.
Amazing.
Batteries store electricity in the short term, and carbon tanks hold the hydrogen for the long term.
Yeah.
They got their hats on straight.
They know what they're doing. Okay, we have to say...
Well, this is cool. The hydrogen-powered vessel is priced at 6 million euros.
Which is about
$7 million.
$7 million. Okay, it's time
And that's
to
the end.
end.
That's the last thing.
And I've already put up our last thing that says have a marvelously agreeable week.
Well, so far so good.
Okay, why don't you put us up and we can wave goodbye.
Adios, amigos.
Come back next time.
Y'all come back and see us now, you hear?